Oh, hello.
Why, hello there.
It's another beautiful wintry day from Melbourne and whatever the normal temperature is in Brisbane.
It was actually quite hot today.
Yeah, I was in Sydney last week and it was like 20 something degrees. Like on one of the days, it was quite warm.
Nice.
So, yeah, just the usual. Wait a couple of minutes to see if it gets to 7:30. Well, I see if it gets to 7:30. That sounds like I'm trying to predict the future. No, when it gets to 7:30. Yeah, anyway, it's been. I don't know. I was thinking, like, what's kind of been like cybersecurity news? Oh, gosh. Now I'm using the word cybersecurity unironically. That's how far my career's progressed. Um, but I haven't been keeping on top of, like, what's kind of happening.
It's not quiet. I haven't had time to.
I've been keeping on top of Ukraine, like, what's going on there, and some of the stuff in Africa. But, I guess it's more of the same.
I'm sure it is, yeah.
Let's see. While I just wait, let me.
Getting
While we're
hacked.
waiting to start,
That's the news.
cybersecurity news. You can get early bird savings off ISC Squared Congress.
Whoa.
Moving on to more interesting things. Let's see. Let's see. Wired. 0 day summer. Yeah, dude. Twitter scammers stole $1,000 from my friend. Code kept secret fees revealed its flaw or a backdoor. A secret encryption cipher baked into radio systems used by critical infrastructure workers, police, and others around the world is finally seeing sunlight. Yeah, of course. There's going to be backdoors and all of that crap. China's breach of Microsoft Cloud email may expose deeper problems. Satellites are rife with basic security. Anyway, nothing particularly immediately interesting. All right,
No,
we're past
like,
7:30. Time
that's
to
it. Let's get into it.
time to get this party started. So let me switch. Bam. Hopefully that updates in YouTube. So, well, it should. I don't know why I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the preview to
Yeah.
show. There we go. Hello, everybody. Um, so today we are doing a Hack the Box box called Soccer. It's a retired box. Let me just float this out here. I guess you're going to see the target up here. It doesn't really matter.
I think that matters.
Just this bad boy. Another easy one because that's all we've been doing. Jeez. I
Because we're
do
trying to
my
build up the backlog.
I do my hack the box like I play my Call of Duty. Um, so it's a box called Soccer. Jake's been watching the Women's World Cup. He's been loving it. Was
Sure
there a
have.
match in New Zealand? I overheard there something about an earthquake
Yeah,
in
Australia and New
Wellington.
Zealand are co-hosting it, so there's been a
Oh,
lot of matches in New Zealand.
how cute. Neither of us are big enough to get to host it by ourselves. Anyway, okay. So let me just get my box IP so I can do an Nmap scan. So where we're going to start is we're going to go. Let's see. Right. Nmap dash sc dash sv for safe scripts and whatever the other one is.
Versions.
Versions. There we go.
The
I
Vita
never
version.
remember. I just go nmap make do. And then we hit go on our IP address. By now, I probably don't need to explain nmap, but if anyone's interested, it's
So, hey Vance.
hey, it's just a way of scanning hosts for running services. I think we've talked about it plenty of times before.
Almost every time, I think.
Yeah. It's like the starting point for everything. It's taken a while to get going.
That is taking a while to get going.
Yeah.
We were having Hack the Box issues a little
Yeah.
earlier.
Hack the Box was having a bit of a struggle. I mean, I pre-prepared and the SQL map stuff worked.
This is true.
Wait, what am I going to do?
Check spoilers.
There we go. Okay, so for anyone wondering why I've got the font size set to that for an 80-year-old, it's so that it shows up on YouTube, especially at lower bit rates. And for poor old Jake, who's looking at this through Discord at microscopic resolution. Okay, so as standard, SSH, we've got HTTP on port 80, and we've got 9091 is some other thing. It thinks it's XML mail. Spoilers, it's not.
It's
and
returning HTTP and HTML codes, so we're pretty sure that's a web server, not a mail server.
It's a web server that it thinks is a mail server. That's why it's giving us that weird stuff. It hasn't got that weird redirect detected thing though. It didn't follow redirect whatever. But what we can
That's because you've already got the host.
I know I did the one for the other server. Anyway, let's go to Firefox and we'll just go to the IP address. And it's gonna give us a burp error, unknown host soccer.htb. Because for reference, I got this all proxied via burp. Set. This week we set things up before the stream started.
Okay. We are prepared.
Yeah. All right. I had a mental blank on what I'm doing. Also, I'm using WSL. I couldn't get my graphics card drivers working on Linux, and so I was just like, I'll just use WSL for all of this. So, an unconventional setup for doing CTFs. Right. So we want to go...
I'm genuinely surprised the SQL map didn't trigger Defender.
I don't have Defender enabled on this thing.
Oh well, that'll do it then.
Yeah. The box with all my security tools. Right. So we're going to go 10. So that previous DNS record is for something that'll come up later. That we have to do a bit of pre-prep. And so we just want to go soccer.htb. Also, sorry if anyone gets triggered by the machine gun report of my keyboard. Right. There we go. And now, if I go back to Firefox. By the way, this is maybe a bit scuffed, but this is Firefox running in WSL. No root to host. Did I type that right? Yeah, soccer.htb. Oh, what I did there was I did myself a disservice. I did myself dirty. I typed the IP wrong.
Yeah.
And now we wait. There was an issue with the Australian HTB VPN servers as well. Come and cooperate. Yeah, it's updated. 46132 soccer.htb. This is what it's trying to redirect to, yeah. Wonder if Hack the Box is having some issues.
Maybe. Bring back up the box status page, maybe.
Where are we? It says it's still up. 129. Let me double check I've got the IP right. 10.129.146.132. Soccer.htb. And then just put the IP in there. Error, no root to host. Well, that's new. Okay.
That is new.
I'm just going to turn off burp for a second. And then try without burp. There we go. It was burp that was the problem.
Interesting.
Should be able to do a bunch of this without burp anyway. So DNS stuff is fun, right? So pass the nmap scan, updated hosts. So we have write-ups we do. So for context, I did the first half of this with Jake, and then Jake finished the second half himself. So you get to see someone who kind of hasn't done this particular box all the way through.
Also, link in the description below for all of that
goodness. The write-up that Jake put a lot of effort into. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick... we have a web page that has stuff on it, but there appears to be nothing directly interesting. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a GoBuster, and then I keep my word lists in a different place. It's directly list medium, right?
Yep.
Secklists, discovery.
One of the smaller ones probably works as well, but that's just the one that I always go to.
Web content, and then it's directory list medium, the old standard.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep. So secklists, handy. Oh, not this again. I've had this before. I'll just do it this way. I'm quickly going to do this off screen just so I don't leak other boxes.
That's a good call.
Yeah. Let's see. Line 296 looks suitable. And then I just need to change the IP.
Nice.
It helps if you add a space after the domain name. Nope. Why aren't you cooperating with me? Word list must be specified, and I've got a word list. It's just there. Unless it doesn't like
So not like the squiggly for home.
No. I'm gonna have to write it from scratch, which is fine. GoBuster you http soccer.htb/w squiggly that tools secklists, and then it's secklists with a Uh-oh, why aren't you cooperating with me? Oh, because it's tools with an S. It was a previous thing I had tools with a Z. Yeah. That's how good I am.
That's tools, why I couldn't find the word list.
Secklists, and then it was web. Discovery, and then it was web content, and then it was directory list medium, and then GoBuster.log. What is wrong with this thing? Help me, Jake.
Wait. I actually can't read it in Discord, so I have to wait
for
this.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It says W must be specified, but I'm specifying W.
-U must be specified and -W must be specified, and you're doing both.
Yes. Normally this works, but occasionally I have issues with GoBuster.
Is that a WSL issue as well?
I wouldn't have thought so. Right, what we're going to do is we're just going to go and get rid of all this. I'm just going to go W.
Maybe just try running GoBuster -H or something to make sure it's...
Yeah. You get to come on the journey as tools stop working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, that looks right. Then if you do GoBuster dir-h,
Wait a
because
second.
we want to run it in directory mode.
Just gonna go -w and then dash. Wordless must be specified. Unless it's the wrong... I mean, it can't be the wrong dash.
Or from copy pasting.
No, it doesn't even like... If I go dash help. No. Unless I got a different version of GoBuster to you.
Oh, do you?
Half a second. Just going to go back to my GoBuster commands. History, grep, GoBuster.
Oh, yeah. You've got the super old school one, so you don't need the dir at the start. That's the problem.
Duh, that'll do it.
Yours is pre-update where they added all the different modes.
Ah.
Get rid of the GoBuster dir part.
Yeah. That'll explain it. Which is funny because I just installed whatever GoBuster was available in the Debian repos. There we go. Some absolutely riveting. Man, if there was commentators like you get in soccer, they would have been like, it's a skill issue.
Pebcac is the term, isn't it?
Yeah, Pebcac. ID10T, Pebcac. And now we wait. It's entertaining. It's entertainment. We're looking for like one word too. So I probably could have just gone, okay, fine, I'll just directly do it from the command line.
Probably, yeah. Either that or up the threads and stuff, but that's all good. I mean, we can let that run in the background and then just show that that's how we found it.
Yeah.
That also works.
Again,
that's kind of what we're going to have to do.
We've done this before.
Yeah.
So I'll just spin up another thing. So it's actually, I don't even have to spin up another thing. It's /tiny.
Sure is.
And then we've got this. However, I think... So we do a brief search for Tiny File Manager vulnerabilities. One of the first things you do when you see an app.
At the time...
There is one now, but I don't think this one's relevant. Because we don't actually need to...
We don't actually exploit a vulnerability, no.
No. In theory, we could go and search and see if there's a vulnerability we can exploit. I mean, we could have a look at this super quickly. Executes the code of files uploaded by users of the application instead of just returning them for download. That's always quality.
So that's assuming that you're an authenticated user.
Yeah, you have to be authenticated. This one allows you to access internal files. Not necessarily massively useful for us. Actually, this vulnerability, I think we do take advantage of, but...
It is actually what we take advantage of, but we came about it in a different way.
We can have a look here, and I think it was... Let's see.
Yeah, so the login page itself has a link to the GitHub.
Of course. Why did I go to all that effort?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, so that...
CCP programmers.
That's the one.
Or SSR. It was the communists all along. Alright. So, somewhere in here you mentioned there's some default creds.
Yeah, there should be default creds listed either... I didn't actually take note of exactly where they were, did I? They're in here, though.
In one of the config files?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
It's in one of the config files. It's all like commented out.
Auth users array. Yeah, admin user. This is actually smaller than yours. There's no more guest user.
Huh. There you go.
But the default admin password is admin123. So what they're recommending is you actually generate a separate password. Like, this is the sort of thing that if you can avoid it, don't hard code creds in apps. Um,
Yeah. If
primarily
you're
for this
writing an app-
specific reason, people will forget to change them or be too lazy to change them.
if you're writing an app that you want other people to like self-host or whatever, have some sort of installer config wizard thingy that they have to either generate their own or it generates them on the fly.
Man, that takes me back to the
Have
PHP
some hard
days
code.
where you
That's it.
you install the forum and then you, as the first user, you could configure all of that stuff. Okay, and most stuff supports SQLite. Right, so we've got access combined with this CV here, 45476. If we upload, I'm assuming PHP files, they'll execute.
Yep.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to, let's see, we'll just do it like this. Soccer, and then we're going to go Vim 8. Quality work from you there, Reese. Right. We're going to go Vim, and then we're going to go info.php. And let's see if I can remember how to do this. Chung chung PHP, PHP info. That.
I always forget if there's an underscore or not in the PHP info.
Is there
function.
or is there not?
That's what I mean. I always forget whether there is or
We're
isn't.
about to find out if I remembered that off the top of my head. We're going back a long time.
Yeah.
Right. And then if we go back to Tiny File Manager, and then we go upload. Sorry, I shouldn't have made myself laugh with my stupid voice. Streams. It's a tiny little file. And we'll open info.php. Specified folder for upload isn't writable.
Yeah, so you can only write to the other folder that's in there. Sorry, if you go back.
Oh. Tiny? Uploads.
Uploads. You can write to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, this makes sense. Except, here, over here.
So yeah, because on the way to that uploads directory, we saw a PHP file. This is why we start to assume that we're uploading PHP stuff.
So tiny, and then it's going to be... I'll just copy this, and we'll go here, and then I'll go... It's going to be tiny, and then uploads, and then info.php. Well, hey!
We did it. There's no underscore.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there was no underscore. This is, if you haven't ever dealt with PHP, this is great, because, like, sometimes on servers, and GoBuster finds them real quick, oftentimes people, when they were setting things up, or even some web hosts, would just leave a PHP info file in the root directory.
Yep.
And it tells you all sorts of useful things, like...
Gives you all the PHP modules that are loaded, all the versioning, some directories.
What functions are disabled.
Yeah.
Which can tell you what you can do. Hashing engine. Somewhere in here's like extensions. PHP variables, I think they sometimes had useful stuff. Oh no, that's just credits. It's somewhere in here. Was there ever like a... Yeah, I can't remember if there was sometimes like really broken stuff, like it would have system environment variables or something. Anyway, always a good throwback to have a look through PHP info. Right, so our next stage is to upload a reverse shell. So I'm just going to do IP address. And I'm 10.10.14.58. We'll save that for later. And then we are going to go to... Actually, it's funny how I decided I'd save that for later, and then I just biffed my clipboard with this. There we go, this handy little dandy thing, and we're going to go This is a little
Yes.
cheeky
Pentest.
reverse shell in PHP from Pentest Monkey.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different reverse shells that he's got hosted on there for, depending on which technology you want to use. And in this case, we're using
I'm going to need to update
P1.
this. So I go...
And this creates a reverse shell rather than like a web shell, which is something we've also done in the past.
And then I want to listen on... Let's go old school, 1337, for old time's sake.
You can listen on that if you want to.
Yeah. And then we're going to go and copy my IP now and update this file. Where did I put my IP? Here. And then vim PHP reverse shell, and then down, and then we find the bit we want, and then you press end accidentally, and then we press I to insert, and then we can... Nope, that doesn't do what I want it to do. That's giving me like select mode or something. Right, but I can do this. There we go. Copy pasta works in WSL. It doesn't work in you've got to do like the Shift Control C.
Yeah.
On Linux, but
Sure do.
WSL and Mac OS, you can just do it. Okay, that looks all good to me. And this will give us a shell using SH. So
yes.
We'll have to do some elevation on the other end. Right. Okay, so now we go back to teeny tiny file manager, and we're gonna upload a new file. PHP reverse shell. The file of legends. And then I probably should have given this a shorter name.
Probably.
Oh good, I can copy that. And then we go here, and then we're just going to go here, and what's going to happen is either this is going to work and I'm going to be happy, or it's not going to work and I'm going to be like, why didn't that work? And it worked. That's what we want.
We can be happy.
This shell doesn't die when the script dies, right?
No.
Good. Sometimes they do that.
Yes, sometimes they time it with the web request.
Right. So, we've got our reverse shell working. And so what we're going to do is we're going to improve the quality of our shell. So I'm going to do this. We don't need to do the shell magic thing this time, right?
No.
No, you don't mention it.
No, the Python one should be fine.
Yeah. I mean, I could always try.
We could try.
I don't remember it off the top of my head, so I can't be bothered.
No, neither do I.
Right.
I'd have to go look it up.
Kind of first usual enumeration step. So it uses, we've got Laurel is like some Linux thing, because I spotted it in something for work. Right, we've got this user player. That's 1001. That's probably a likely target. Otherwise, everything else here looks fairly stock. Interestingly enough, I think the player user was created before the MySQL user, because they're one after each other on the list. That's only a theory, don't quote me on that. So,
a reasonable theory.
Now we've got to get to player. So the challenge is going to be, and I'll briefly short circuit this, we do a bunch of enumeration and we don't really get much further, other than we figure out that on port 3306 we've got MySQL running, which I don't know if Tiny uses or if MySQL was just there by itself. So back, if you recall all the way back to the start of this lovely coordinated stream, on port 9091 we had another thing running. Nope, I didn't want a Google. Here we go. One of these will have all the answers. I don't need to do this anymore. Let's kind of always a bit annoying that you have to like remember to do full HTTP. Okay, soccer.htb 9091. We cannot get slash. So there's something there, but we don't know what the wait a second. That's right. So this is where I've got to not like jump ahead. So we've got a server that's doing something, but we're getting cannot get slash, which probably means that either this thing we have to go buster it, hint that's not actually what we need to do, or we need to figure out if it's using virtual hosts. So what we can do for that is we can have a look at the sites enabled folder. So
yeah, so in our initial enumeration of the first soccer.htb site in both Burp and the browser network tools and stuff like that, we see that the server response is Nginx.
Yes.
We are looking at the Nginx sites enabled for virtual hosts. Just
Burp's...
for a little bit of catch up because Burp was...
Well, let's see. I'll proxy for this one and see what happens now. If it has a cry again. Ah, it didn't have a cry this time. So if we go 9091, yeah, it's a good point, Jake. I accidentally was gonna jump past that. So our call to 9091, our response.
It's not in this one. I think it's in the port 80 one.
Yes. Okay, so if I go refresh this,
you should see it there.
Yeah, there we go. Nginx. So we make an assumption that it's the same server serving two separate sites.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll just shuffle that back off the stage. So now we're just going to grep for server name in all of the files in the Nginx sites enabled folder in ETT. Apache actually has a fairly similar structure. And we get no such file or directory because what I did there was the wrong thing. When I copy and pasted the command, I also copy and pasted the there we go. So what we see here is there is another server that listens to this particular domain. So with web servers, quick aside, you can point multiple domain names or multiple DNS entries at one server or one host, and then the web server can look at the particular in the request. If I go back over here, in the request there's the host header, and that specifies which DNS or domain name was used to look at the host. And if I go over to, actually no, I haven't got it yet. When I go and look at what I'm about to look at, we'll see that we get a different website. Interestingly enough, they are serving and responding. Oh, I don't know it should listen on the port, but it doesn't know how to respond. Is basically what's happened. So now we want to go to, what was it called again, Jake? Sock-player.
That's it, sock-player.
So http sock-player.soccer.htb. My command of typing is amazing. So I didn't need to do a host entry update because I already had a host entry from before. For something that I'm not too far off going, here's what we did earlier. So, okay, so if we have a look, sock player, the host header is different. And we continue onwards with what we are doing. So
now we get a different website with a slightly different menu at the top.
Yep, it's similar but slightly different. Let me make it a bit bigger. There. So we can actually sign up. So in theory we would have GoBuster enumerating. We've got Burp running. and I'll quickly sign up. Let's say player at those guys, and Hunter2 for the password.
Classic.
Yeah, you can register, and then can you actually log in?
Yeah, it logs you in. Well,
Sweet.
you have to log. Yep. So you have to log in to see the page that we need.
Okay, cool. Right. So your ticket ID is 72379. Can't exactly remember what we're meant to do here.
So yeah, it tells us that ticket number is important, and there is a sort of input field there, which, looking at the response that we get when we type some random stuff in there,
Yes. Come over to Burp.
we can assume that it's doing some sort of lookup on if we've got a ticket or not based on that randomly generated ticket number. So playing around with that, yeah, and looking at our burp responses, we can see that when we submit that form, it's not actually doing a get or a post request that we expect to see. But what we do get is a new tab in burp, which is the WebSocket tab.
That's right. The WebSockets history. So this is communicating something. So I send the ticket ID and it goes, that ticket doesn't exist. So kind of at this point, I went down a rabbit hole and thought, is there some sort of like WebSockets vulnerability here that we need to kind of like compromise? However, Jake in his infinite wisdom thought that maybe this is our vector for like an SQL injection attack. Because remember, we'd found MySQL, and it's likely that it stores these things in a database. The challenge is WebSockets doesn't natively support. Well, actually, you take people through your logic.
Yeah, so you can still send WebSocket requests to Repeater in Burp and mess around with them, which is kind of where I went to next. And then from there, just sort of played around with different payloads for SQL injection, and you get to a point where the typical kind of or 1 = 1 payload ends up returning a response which is ticket exists, which kind of means if you look at the WebSocket history, it sort of suggests that the request was successful as far as our little SQL command of or 1 = 1.
Let me see if I can find that. Do we have that?
It's in the write-up, if that's what you mean.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you just pick any of your WebSocket requests and do Control-R and then Control-Shift-R to kind of send the request to Repeater and then jump over to the Repeater tab.
Rightio. So if I pick to server and then just Control-R, Control-Shift-R.
Yep.
And then...
And so here's our repeater for the WebSocket. And then, just...
For a value that is a ticket value that doesn't exist, and we go test.
Yep.
Or classic. I love it. 1 = 1.
It interestingly doesn't work when there is text as the start of the payload, but if it's another number, and it can be any number, it does work.
12 or 1 = 1.
Yeah.
Ticket exists. Yep. Which means we're forcing it to evaluate to true, because we've just done some SQL injection.
And so you can test that by removing the SQL stuff and just doing ticket ID 12, and it should return no ticket, or ticket doesn't exist, or whatever.
Yeah.
Because there is no ticket number 12.
Ticket doesn't exist.
Brilliant. And so that's how we confirm that we might be looking at SQL injection, and from here, it's always easier to just use a different tool, as in SQL map, to kind of find what type of injection we're looking at that might get us access to actually dump the database.
So this is where kind of, and sometimes we talk about how we, you know, unless we absolutely have to, we, try and avoid using tools, or we write our own scripts for something, excluding where we just grab simple like reverse shells and stuff like that. However, when it comes to like SQL injection, especially when it starts to get esoteric and you've got to test a whole ton of use cases, and in my opinion, like out in the real world, unless you're testing an app that's more than like 5, 6, 7 years old, or is written by people who still write in PHP or very simple apps, you don't see a lot of like direct SQL attack surface anymore. So, a lot of apps these days, if there's a database behind them, they use an object relational mapper.
Yep.
Sometimes those can have injection vulnerabilities, and normally that's where like you'd probably use SQL map to find those vulnerabilities, because they tend to be pretty esoteric. Like there's sometimes bits in the app where they might have thought to just run a direct query rather than use the ORM, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But by and large, when I do web testing, I haven't found an SQL injection in a while.
And
Um,
this is also quite a blind SQL injection. Like we send a command and we get basically a true or false back. We don't actually get any kind of useful MySQL info back. So
yeah,
that's why it can be complicated to slowly work your way through, whether it's a union injection or whatever type of injection it is. We have to slowly build that out manually, which can take tons of time, whereas SQL Map kind of does that all for us, which is nice.
yeah. It's
And
like the shortcut.
speaking of seeing real world SQL injections, uh, there was a pen test that I did recently, which had an interesting SQL injection. So it does still exist in the real world in production environments. Um, and yeah, that's probably all I can say about that.
Fair enough. So a quick one at the start. SQL map can work with WebSockets. You'll need to install WebSocket Dash Client. I'm running a virtual environment. Probably good to learn how virtual environments work, because they just make containing things a hell of a lot easier. And then this was me pinging the server to check it worked was up, because we had some problems connecting at the start. Um, and so what we're doing is we're running SQL map. We're telling it what URL to hit, and we're telling it that it's a web service. We're telling it what, like, a kind of a sample of data, so it'll know how to transform and attack this. Um, we're telling it that it's MySQL. Doing it in batch, which I think just means it kind of does everything one after the other. Level 5 risk 3 are kind of like parameters around exactly what and how it's going to test. And in an interesting one, Jake's original pass at this found a time based SQL injection, which made it super finicky. Whereas this is a more repeatable form of execution, but found at this. I'm
Yeah,
guessing what this means is if you've got IDSs or WAFs, or you've got seam monitoring and you're doing like a red team exercise, the higher these are, the more likely and noisier they are.
that's it.
Yeah,
So the batch, see how a little bit further down in your input you've got kind of questions that it's asking you. So batch just auto answers those with the
batch just goes right. It just yeah,
and then yeah, like you said, with the levels and the risks, that just changes basically how noisy it is and what tests it performs. So originally we didn't use the level 5 risk 3, and like you said, it did find a vulnerability, but it was a time based one, which took over 20 minutes, I think, to actually kind of complete the exploitation. Whereas when we increase those values, it finds a different exploit vector, and it's a lot quicker,
yeah.
which
Not
is
it.
nice for the stream.
It took all of like 5 minutes to run. I don't
Yeah,
know. I have my opinion on things that require tools to run that don't like almost immediately go found it. Um,
yeah. But either way, if you can route all this traffic through Burp so that you can see the responses that it's or the requests that it's running, and at least for the time-based blind one, they are incredibly complicated that we probably wouldn't have come up with manually
Let's see if I
to
can
find.
find what it found. Because you put all your output in this thing. The following
Yeah, so
injection
it
points.
was,
Oh, it's like it's
if you,
it's
yeah,
like
that first output shows you the payload.
yeah. It's like ID equals 1 and select. Yeah, yeah. Select from sleep. Okay, so if I just quickly open up a terminal, that's what it is. ID 1 and select 4321 from select sleep 5 IZXB. Which is like, okay, I don't even know what half of that means. I'm not a DB guy.
Yeah, so basically it's checking if the application takes roughly 5 seconds to respond, then it assumes that it's running that sleep command. Uh,
Oh, okay, and therefore it's found it, yeah.
and therefore it's found something. So basically, you have to keep changing that select, and every time you get a 5 second sleep, that means that you've found the right character or the right
The,
ID.
also, we
And
forgot about the Go Buster. It found Tiny.
okay, you're
Anyway,
fine
so
with it.
where are we? Okay, so we go through. We tells you all the tests it runs, and it's found our particular injection with this payload. So actually, no, it's 1 2 3 4 select from select sleep 5. It's that one again.
Huh, it does do the same one.
Okay, maybe you're anyway. Oh, it found two. It found the Boolean based blind, and then
Yeah,
it
so
also
that's
found the
the other
time
one.
based blind. So
Yeah,
okay,
the Boolean one is much faster than the
yeah, yeah,
time
yeah.
bit. Yeah.
Anyway, so if we go down, 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 oh, that's just. So then what we're going to do is we want it to dump a particular table. So Jake spent a bunch of time trying to enumerate the tables that existed on the database.
Well, there's actually a command. So you do -dbs.
And it injects
Yeah,
away until it can get you the DBs.
yeah, and then it finds all the databases, and then
Yeah.
once you know that, you do the same thing for tables, and then it lists out all the tables. And then once you've got a list of all the tables, you pick which table you want to dump, and we get to basically where we are now.
And so the reason why we just kind of like short circuited all of that was because the time it takes. So
Yeah, if you look in the timestamps in the write up, it takes 20 minutes to get to dumping the database using the time based blind injection. At
so
least.
anyway, we do all the same thing again. Then we go the database we're choosing is soccer, the table is accounts, and we want to get the contents of that. And so it sits there and runs away to find it all again, and then gives us this.
Yep.
Which we can then use.
And that's what we want. That looks like creds to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm just looking at what we can do from here. Sweet. So we can just straight up SSH in with these creds. Oh, come on, let me create a new Windows terminal.
We had SSH in our Nmap scan.
Yeah, it should be pretty straightforward.
Basically, whenever we find creds that look like that, we might as well try them straight up against SSH. And
player at soccer.
In this case, at least, it lets us in.
Yes, I accept your host key. And then we copy the password. If we can get the correct things without any like white space. And then and ha. Hey, we're in.
Very nice.
Just get rid of all of that garbage. Right. So now we can do some of our enumeration. So
yeah, so now we pretty much start again, where this time we're looking for our path to Privesk. We are user now, so we can read the user flag, which
it does not like the password because I probably screwed something up. Right. Yep, okay. So we can't run sudo. How did you figure out that we can run doas?
So it's another one of those find commands similar to looking for sticky bits. It is in the write-up.
Yeah,
It's, yeah.
yeah. Sorry.
Uh,
Sometimes in our write-ups, again, because we're now on the bit that I haven't done. And
yeah.
so I was just like, you know what, it'd be good to know.
Yeah. So doas doesn't have just a sudo -l. You have to find a config file which tells you what you can and can't do
Yeah.
with doas, and that find command, shows you the config file at least, and then when we cat that out, it should tell us exactly what we can do.
We can run dstat. So it's
And
one of those things where, like, there's so many different utilities used for trying to give you limited elevation of permissions. So sudo is the most common, and I'm going to guess is probably a pretty reliable way to do it. I'm guessing doas might be a bit. I'm curious. I'm just gonna do a cheeky.
doas is almost the same thing. There's also our standard thing of capabilities and sticky bits and everything else.
Yeah, I've just never run across doas in any of those. Doas software. Let's have a look on Wikipedia.
It's on a lot of the common
Dedicated OpenBSD application sub-executor. Initial release 2015. Oh, so this isn't like... I was assuming this was some super old thing. As a simpler and safer sudo replacement. Unangst himself, what a name, had issues with the default sudo config, which was his motivation. Sudo config is needlessly complex.
The OpenBSD thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, that is much simpler than all of the jazz you have to do in sudo. Okay. So we can use dstat, right? Let's have a quick look for, just out of curiosity, dstat.
Yeah, so a lot of your Privesc cheat sheets will include doing a check for what can you do with doas, just in case. It's not something we've ever usually got up to or found a result for. So I think this is actually the first box we've come across that uses doas versus
everything else, yeah.
Everything else, yeah.
dstat allows you to view all of your system resources instantly. You can, e.g., compare disk usage in combination with interrupts from your IDE controller. Okay, so it's kind of like file system... Oh, CPU stats. It's just like a general system stats thing. Okay. So if we go doas, and then I'm gonna say we do that, and then dstat. Wait. Operation not permitted. Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's the specific path. Yeah.
Yeah, sudo's the same. Usually when it says, sudo on this binary permitted with no password or whatever, you have to pass the full path to the binary.
I see in your thing you made exactly the same mistake. Oh, that is very nice. Look at that. Look at that.
So pretty.
It's giving you line by line your computer's doing things. And then end. Be done. Okay. Right. Okay, so now what are we looking for? What can we do with dstat, my friend?
Yeah, so at the time we looked at GTFO bins and there wasn't an entry for it, which funnily enough there is now. And it basically runs through doing the same thing as we're about to do.
Just look at what we've got.
But this is the one that we ended up following. So it pretty much creates a plugin, a dstat plugin. But what the plugin does is spawn a shell. And because we can run this as root, when it spawns it as root, and yeah.
Right, so if we go to try and locate the dstat directory, which I am guessing is one of those three things.
Yeah, so we look at which one of those we can write to, and should be the share one.
Yeah. CD user share dstat.
Why does it have plugins? It's a very good question.
Yeah. That would this isn't like, it's like all of those things where it's like the weakness is arbitrary code execution plugins. So if I just go vim hacks.py, do I need to give it a sensible name that starts with dstat? You know what?
It has to be dstat underscore
hacks.
anything. It can be dstat underscore anything, I think is the naming convention. Yeah.
And then we'll just dump in a cheeky little bit of Python.
Yeah,
this is the sort of Python I like.
Okay, so I found a GitHub repo with a bunch of different dstat plugins, and it's like NVIDIA GPU usage, memory usage, include PIDs in the app. So it just kind of extends it to display more data, really.
Oh, this is exciting. Wait, can't open file for writing. Okay. Wait. Sorry, I nearly failed my Linux drivers test by forgetting how to exit Vim. Use a local share dstat. Wait. Use a local share dstat. I went to the wrong directory, Jake.
That's never a good thing.
Yeah. And then we're going to go vim dstat underscore hacks.py. And then we're going to go here, and then we're going to go this all over again. It's nothing like a live demonstration of someone who struggles to use a computer. Alright, okay, that worked. And now we can go
yeah, so there's a test command to see if it accepts the plugin, and then you can actually run it.
Where did my do as go? Here. And then so if we go list and then grep hacks. Yeah. And then this is the bit that I'm most looking forward to. You just give it the like flag.
Yep, you just run that as a flag, like a plugin flag, and it should load it all up.
Name dstat plugin is not defined.
Yep, that's cool if it.
But
so it throws an error, and then you run --p, and it should load up the bash that it spawned. So because it's not a valid dstat plugin, so dstat fails, but it still ran the code.
Oh, and because we did a box last night where bash-p is a thing where it kind of will just accept whatever it's given. So if in the background, it's kind of, root. So bash got spawned and then bash-p picks that up.
Yeah, that's it. And exactly right. This is how we show that none of this is pre-recorded.
Yeah. This is all carefully rehearsed. Look, at least we had the foresight to prep the SQL map stuff.
Yeah, imagine if we were sitting here for 20 minutes just waiting for that to...
Okay, cd root, and then we go ls, and we've got root.txt, and we go head -c10 root.txt. And there it is, the first 10 digits. We'll leave the rest of those digits to the viewer to figure out. Ah, nice. Well, we got there, and just on an hour too. And I did that second half of that kind of blind.
Alright.
Yeah, so some interesting stuff. I didn't know about Duaz. But then again, I'm not a massive I haven't used BSD in a while because like the closest thing to it was I had a router at one point that was running BSD, but now all my routers run just Linux. Well, my router just runs Linux. I should probably update it actually. Um, and then yeah, but no, that was good. We got there in the end.
That was good. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, if you are watching this now or later, for the meantime, we're just gonna stream every other week. We'll find a better way to do announcements or something. Maybe we'll do like a quick like just video upload on those other weeks that just go. Remember, we're we're going next week, but that's because we're using the off weeks to have time to prep, and hopefully once we've got a backlog, we can start doing it every week. Plus, we'll probably throw in the occasional let's talk about the news or let's talk about random questions from Security Stack Exchange and stuff like that as well that we sometimes used to do way back in the day.
Fediverse. The goal is to get back to weekly streams, but at the moment we need to build up a bit of a backlog to be able to do that. And the best way we could think of to get to that point is to spend every other week, instead of streaming, hacking boxes.
It's kind of interesting. My the other comms channel we have with people, mine's not updating. I'm getting all the notifications, but
Fediverse is, but it looks like like a blog thing that we can maybe talk about, I'm guessing.
Fediverse, isn't that all like the Lemmy and what's the Twitter replacement called again? I've just completely forgotten what it was called.
I don't know. I'm like so far from any social media that I have no idea what that is.
Yeah. Good on you, Richard Stallman. Here we
are. Defederated social networks.
Yeah, right. Defederated Mastodon, that's the one. Yeah, we probably could hop on the InfoSec Mastodon. I'm on that. I got an account. I don't do anything with it. But yeah, we can probably start doing some socialization. Anyway, thank you for tuning in, dear viewers.
Thanks for watching.
I mean, I might be a bit bold by using the plural viewers, but, you know, he's hoping. Anyway, catch you guys later.
See ya.